Content warning. I started making this video before the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and it is not meant to comment in any way on the current situation. This video is about a game which takes place in an alternate universe where the United States and the Soviet Union start a land war in Europe. If this content is distressing to you, I would recommend turning off the video now.
Acknowledged. Engaging. Neutralizing target.
It's just a flesh wound. I can keep fighting.
It is the year 1989, and after diplomatic negotiations between NATO and the Soviet Union break down, the Cold War becomes hot. The Soviets steamroll West Germany and take the Balkan, the Low Countries and parts of Scandinavia, as the Western powers desperately try to stop their advance. We play as Lieutenant Parker, a faceless void of military prowess and officer in the United States Army, following Captains Webb and Bannon and Colonel Tommy Lee Jones. There's also the expansion Soviet Assault, where you play Lieutenant Romanov of the Red Army accompanying this guy and Captain Melashenko.
It is simple. For every ambush, we execute 10 random civilians. They will soon cease their attacks when they realize the price they must pay.
And what if they don't?
Then we should kill them all.
Oh boy, I sure wonder who the twist villain is going to be. After a few weeks of war in Europe, the Red Army manages to sneak by the entire US Pacific Fleet in container ships with Cyrillic writing on them? Oh shit! Everyone shut up, I will handle this.
Good American day, comrade. This is U.S. Navy Patrol. Please state your purpose for entering American waters. Capitalism? Alright, carry on.
As Russian ships land in Seattle and embark a huge number of troops, the American military has to fight a desperate retreat in their own homeland.
We're getting reports from the Coast Guard about a developing situation at the harbor front. We have a lot of unmarked container ships approaching. They're refusing to identify themselves. Over.
И мир видел нашу мощь. Теперь освободите небеса.
Освободите небеса!
I mean, come on, that's just fucking awesome. In the first mission, we get tasked with liberating West Berlin from NATO forces. With our initial artillery barrage, the Berlin Wall is detonated and we are officially in World War III. And damn does it feel good. I mean, immersive, you know, not like good, like World War III isn't good, like... Just look at this, there's so much stuff going on besides a little platoon of tanks.
Noon. Army Command is planning a parade along the avenue in celebration of the victory they expect us to win for them.
Here we are, we're awaiting orders. Neutralize
flak fire and sirens, airstrikes and artillery going down all over the city, paratroopers in the distance, helicopters transporting units around. Berlin looks awesome, and there are many actual landmarks of Berlin to be seen. This is an incredibly strong introduction to the game, and it feels great.
Good thing you got there in time, Romano. The entire flank was about to fall. Now, push through and secure that bridge.
So let's talk a little bit about how the game works. Modern Conflict is a real-time tactical game, so unlike an RTS, we don't get to build a fancy base and manage resources, nor do we control entire armies or battalions. The game is mostly focused on small-scale actions. We usually control between 5 and 15 units, and the area of operation is pretty limited. You can select your units over the reinforcement menu, which are then airdropped into the combat zone. You have a certain amount of reinforcement points, and each unit has a different cost. When a unit is destroyed, your reinforcement points will slowly trickle back and you can request new units, but sometimes you only have your starting units available to you with no possibility of reinforcement. In classic strategy game fashion, you get a varied unit roster with different strengths and weaknesses. Heavy tanks are incredibly durable and pack a strong punch even from a long range distance, but are pretty slow and very easy targeted. Humvees are light and fast. They can transport infantry around the battlefield and even repair vehicles, but they are very squishy. Choppers have great damage, maneuverability and speed, but be careful not to fly too close to enemy anti-air, or they will be gone quicker than you can say ZSU-23 for Schilke. Riflemen are generally great all-rounders. They can deal with most enemies if you use them correctly. They get access to anti-air and anti-tank weapons, they have rifles, but if they are caught in the open, they are dead meat. Mortars are, well, let's just say they're trying their best. Medium tanks are great for when you don't have enough points for a heavy tank and you really want to frustrate yourself trying to hit their fucking phosphor rounds. Come on, fucking shoot, come on! You also have access to a wide array of fire support options, ranging from artillery barrages to napalm strikes to huge carpet bombing runs.
Strike success. Return to base. Berkut out.
We crushed them.
Your fire support capabilities are tied to your damage, so depending on the mission you will have access to different amounts of fire support. Sometimes though, you get fire support priority, which means you can let all hell break loose on an enemy, which is a lot of fun.
I'm going to hunt for hostile tanks. Over. They're firing on us! Artillery strike is inbound. I'm going to strike it. We lost helicopter. Watching here, reporting hostile casualties. They're here. We have destroyed their cells. The
destruction engine is pretty decent for such an old game, and if you're anything like me, you'll spend most of your laser guided bombs just blowing up various landmarks. The game looks really good, especially considering that it's 15 years old at this point. The unit models look amazing, and there are lots of little details. The maps vary a bit. The urban ones are usually gorgeous, while some of the rural ones are... Can you tell me which one of these take place before and which one after Nuclear Blast? Because they both look depressing as all hell. The unit control is for the most part pretty responsive and tight, despite the occasional pathfinding issue.
Fall back now, Parker! That artillery is closing in!
And the maps allow for a wide range of strategies to use. You can form a front line of heavy tanks as a bulwark and use artillery and fire support to methodically destroy enemy encampments. You can use the cover of the forest and buildings to bring infantry close and overwhelm them with rocket launchers. You can strike with helicopters and take out their important vehicles from a distance. Sadly, this is often hamstringed by the developers not giving us a lot of units to choose from. I know you don't want me to have every unit by the third mission of the game, and for a lot of the missions it adds to the experience. The defense of Cascade Falls would feel a lot less challenging and desperate if I could just park some heavy tanks on the fortified positions and call it a day. But why we can literally only use tanks and support units in the last mission of the game will always remain a mystery to me. This takes place in Seattle. This is literally the most urban mission of the game. Just let me use some goddamn infantry. And despite a lot of the missions just boiling down to taking a fortified position from the enemy, holding against the counterattack, and then moving on to the next position, it feels a lot more varied than that.
Call 1 to Romano. Force a breach and destroy that radar. We cannot reinforce until it is disabled. We have the beach secured, but one of the chronoplanes was forced to land further north. I want you to clear a route through the village and link up with them, Romano. The Norwegians are renewing their attack, Lieutenant. Dig in around the aircraft and hold. Your next task is to take control of the surface-to-air missile batteries located on the hills to the east. There is no time for rest. The Norwegians are preparing a counterattack on your position, Romano. You must defend at all costs. Now, take your forces to the main base entrance and secure it. You must hold in place until our engineers have finished placing the demolitions. The Norwegians will throw everything they have at you, but you must not let them through.
The game actually goes to great lengths to make you feel immersed. There's always stuff happening. Allied troops are fighting all over the place, there's constant artillery and close air support happening, airborne troops landing, helicopters flying all over the place. There's also radio chatter happening, though that becomes kind of lesser as the campaign goes on. The second mission of the game, which is actually the first mission unless you have the Soviet assault expansion, deals with the invasion and retreat from Seattle. During this mission, which is supposed to feel chaotic and overwhelming, there's a lot of random chatter happening on the radio, as forces all over Seattle get overrun.
My God, it's the entire Red Army down there. They got the whole harbor. We have to pull out now. Retreat, sir, retreat. Ah! Red Eye 4, come in. To anyone out there, this is Staff Sergeant Hanson of the Washington National Guard. I have men pinned down at the docks in need of immediate reinforcements. Attention all units in Seattle. I am still unable to raise division or any higher command. We're on our own. Come on, you gobbies! Me and my boys are gonna set you up for a dinner date with Stalin!
This is Yankee 5. Just provide us with your target coordinates and we'll take care of the rest. Over.
This is Bravo 4. We're facing a sustained Soviet assault and cannot hold. Please advise. Over.
We won't fall back another inch! This is our country, damn it! I'm losing people all over the city, damn it! We won't be able to hold out much longer!
Who the hell is in charge of this mess? I thought we were gonna retreat! Bravo 4 here. We have almost no ammo left and I got a lot of wounded men. We need support.
Good for you!
Even though these are mostly scripted and they're tied to your progress, it feels very organic and just honestly realistic. It really feels like you're in a city that got surprisingly attacked by an overwhelming force and everyone is desperately trying to defend and retreat. This happens a lot less often as the campaign goes on though, and besides the main characters talking about objectives and the general tide of the battlefield, you don't really get a lot of talking. It would be really cool if you just had random units yelling at the enemy, celebrating momentary victories, or asking for reinforcements or medical attention. Another factor for immersion is the game uses secondary objectives in an expert way. In a lot of games, secondary objectives are either used early on to introduce new game mechanics to you.
If only we knew where the German AT guns are.
My operatives are still at our service, Colonel.
Or to give you a little extra challenge, but they often are quite repetitive and frankly don't make a lot of sense in the story. Let's look at one example. In the Age of Empires 3 mission, The Great Lakes, we must defeat the British renegade town and fleet in the Great Lakes region. During the mission, we get access to a powerful fleet to help us achieve that. And the secondary objective we get during the mission is not to lose any of those ships that we just got to help us out. All that encourages me to do is just not use the ships. I'm just going to play it safe so they have no chance of dying.
Once upon a time.
And there's not even any real reward for preserving the ships. I get 300 XP points, which is a tiny amount, and while it can be used to buy some extra cards in between missions, it's honestly not a big deal. And I don't even get any flavor text or innumerous explanation for why the ships must be conserved. Neither does anything happen when I lose the ships. No General Washington dialogue comes up saying like, "Good heavens, Nathaniel, you lost me my ships!" That's my George Washington voice, by the way. No, it just appears in the quest menu as failed, which is pretty uninspiring. Contrast that to most of the secondary objectives involved in conflict. In the first mission, where we get tasked with liberating West Berlin as a Soviet lieutenant, we get the secondary objective of helping out an allied company that is being harried by helicopters.
Total 1, Volochenko на связи. We're under attack by NATO helicopters and need immediate anti-air support.
Romanov, you have the necessary equipment. Aid Captain Malashenko if you can.
It is the first mission, so it's not incredibly challenging, and we have access to 2 heavy AA batteries. All we must do is micro one of our vehicles to our allies and establish a no-fly zone. But from a tactical perspective, it makes a lot of sense. By aiding our comrade with AA support, we cut down on his casualties and also help out with the larger goal of liberating West Berlin. If we aren't quick for help, Captain Malashenko will repeatedly ask us for resistance.
Where are you, Romanov? The enemy helicopters are ripping my people to shreds. Говорит Volochenko. Romanov, I need your anti-air units now, please!
If we fail the objective, we get yelled at, and he's the twist villain, so I really don't want to get on his bad side.
Romanov, what the hell happened to that anti-air support? My men's lives are on your conscience. Volochenko out.
If we succeed in a mission, we'll get praised by Malashenko.
Thank you, Lieutenant. You saved many lives today. It will not be forgotten. Volochenko out.
Furthermore, he will have more troops ready for defense of the 17th June Street, which will ultimately also benefit us. Or how about Mission 4, Battle for Pine Valley? After the Soviet landing at Seattle, we have been continuously retreating from the Russian forces. When it is decided, we will take and hold a small town named Pine Valley to wait for reinforcements from the Oregon National Guard. We are tasked with securing a gas station here, while our allies are taking a supermarket. Once we achieve that, we must clear the town of enemy fortifications and ultimately flank the Soviet command post. After we have cleared the town, we must take up defensive positions and hold the town against the Soviet main force until we get our reinforcements. Our first secondary objective is taking out a Soviet sniper that kills one of our radio men. It makes sense not to leave an enemy sniper right behind our line, right next to our command post. And in game we are also incentivized to take him out. The sniper's tower is dangerously close to our initial landing zone, so any infantry we bring in is in grave danger. After killing the sniper and securing the gas station, we have to move towards the town center and clear it. When we get words from our scouts that the Soviet main force is closing in. So our next secondary objective is cleaning the town in a very rapid pace. If we achieve that goal, we'll get an M1 Abrams tank detailed to our company, which is an absolute godsend for the rest of the mission.
You move fast, Parker. I'm detailing an M1 tank to you. Put it to good use.
Should we fail to clear the town in time, we will get no additional units and the rest of the fight gets a lot harder. Next we have to flank and wipe out a Soviet command post. During our advance we are under constant fire from artillery, which we can silence if we take out the forward artillery observer. After another briefing, we take up defensive positions when we get a request to repair a broken down tank from Captain Bannon. If we comply with his request, we will get another heavy tank added to our forces, and Bannon has an extra tank to bolster his defenses. When our initial position gets taken out by artillery,
Fall back now, Parker! That artillery is closing in!
we pull back and reinforce Captain Webb in defending the southeastern approach to town. But as it turns out, the Russians have positioned some mortars on our flanks and start shelling our defenses. If we don't take out those mortars, they will do a lot of damage to our units and make it much harder to defend. So we can send a little strike team to take them out or destroy them with fire support if we know their location. After some fierce fighting, Bannon retreats from the left flank and we have to consolidate our troops in the town center and mount a desperate defense against some truly overwhelming odds. A small allied artillery platoon is under attack at a nearby hill, and if we successfully relieve them, we get to take control over the mortars to help us defend the town. If we manage to hold out for a while, we will get fire support from the USS Missouri.
USS Missouri requesting contact with U.S. forces in Pine Valley. I repeat, this is USS Missouri requesting contact with U.S. forces in Pine Valley. We need target coordinates if we are to provide accurate fire support. I repeat, we need target coordinates to provide accurate fire support.
This is Eagle 6 in Pine Valley, and are we glad to see you, Missouri? We need fire support at Foxtrot 6 and Echo 5. Over.
Roger that, Eagle 6.
Fire for effect, Missouri. Eagle 6 out.
Where we can actually designate targets for its guns, which is a ton of fun. A short while later, the National Guard moves in to reinforce us and the day is won. A truly great mission. You also need to fulfill all secondary objectives in order to earn the medals and honors at the end of each mission. These are completely meaningless, they're just reskin points, but damn, what a great reskin. The medals are based on real-world military medals and honors and add another layer of realism and also accomplishment to the end of each mission. Furthermore, each of them gets a little flavor text describing why you earned this medal. They don't benefit you in any way, but you still want to get them all. Now, not everything is gold here either. Quite a few of the secondary objectives don't actually have any material effect on the battle. And neither do a lot of the primary objectives, by the way. And that's something that you kind of start noticing, especially if you have played the game more than once. If you look at it a little closer, what happens on the battlefield is in the end pretty meaningless. There are missions where if you don't help out the allies, you will lose or have a harder time for sure.
Vance, come in. Come in. You were supposed to support them, Parker.
But for the most part, what happens at other fronts is really of no concern to us. Our colonel might tell us to quickly mount a distracting attack on the enemy to relieve a surrounded force on the other side of the map.
Comrade Captain, second platoon says they're 10 minutes out.
Bastards! Tell that mongrel Petrov I'll put a bullet in his head if he's not here in 5. Sokol, this is Shipovnik. My men are surrounded and need immediate reinforcements.
Shipovnik, I'm aware of the situation. Move your troops to the western ford and cross there. Romanov will create a diversion to the east.
Sokol, we don't have time for diversions and flanking maneuvers. I need a bridge man.
But nothing actually happens if we just wait around. In Mission 17, we have to take over a Russian-occupied town on a road back to Seattle, and our ally Captain Webb, who is launching a frontal assault, is complaining of high casualties.
Sir, I'm gonna lose a lot of men on a frontal attack. Maybe if I flanked around to the north.
No time for that now, Webb.
Eagle 6, this is Webb. I just lost 2nd Platoon and the bridge collapsed in the artillery barrage. Webb here. The assault is not going well. If I push harder, I'll lose my command, Colonel.
But actually, both he and the Soviets have an infinite number of troops and are content to just fight it out until basically the end of all time. The mission usually only advances when we achieve objectives, and the rest of the units are just there to be pretty in the background and make the map look a bit more populated. Now, I understand why they did that, of course. Obviously, you want the player to feel like he's in control of the game, and it would really suck if we lost the mission just because Webb couldn't hold his damn bridge. But it would still be cool if the rest of the battlefield had a little more impact on what's happening. And I suppose it's also good that our success is not dictated by our AI colleagues, because the AI is not great.
We also have reports of an enemy M1 Abrams tank in the area. This is the most lethal tank in the American arsenal. Destroy it if you get the opportunity. That Abrams tank is posing a serious threat to our forces, Romanov.
Are you sure about that?
As far as I can tell, the AI is pretty simple. They spawn in and then usually either attack or defend. They don't really try to flank you or ambush you or anything like that. For the most part, it feels like fighting the Zerg, which sometimes feels weird. I don't think the United States would throw literally thousands of soldiers and vehicles in a frontal assault just to take back a street. And the AI doesn't really get any smarter with higher difficulties either. The only thing that really changes is that there are more enemies, some time limits are a bit shorter, and you deal less damage. Like, a lot less damage. On the highest difficulties, it feels like your heavy tanks are shooting 120mm rounds of cotton candy. Now I know, AI in strategy games is incredibly difficult to program, and in a lot of games they just cheat and get extra resources. Obviously that's not possible here, but still it feels weird when the enemy is throwing literally hundreds of units into the meat grinder without any consideration. Furthermore, sometimes the tactical decisions that dictate our objectives actually make no sense whatsoever. In Mission 13, we are operating behind enemy lines trying to destroy some Soviet submarines. After securing one and blowing up another, we are tasked with plugging up a hole in the residential area and holding the Russian advance. But while we were attacking the second submarine, we were being attacked by enemies that had absolutely zero problem just driving around the residential area. Nor will they have any problem doing that after we take position. Also, despite us taking out the helicopter base earlier, the Russians seem to have an infinite supply of helicopters with which to drop units right inside our perimeter. And we don't have access to any anti-air units besides riflemen, which do about as well as you could expect on a battlefield without any cover whatsoever. And later we just retreat to the first submarine and defend there, a much easier position.
Parker, move your team towards Submarine 1 and assist Bannon. We're not leaving until that sub's been destroyed.
Why didn't we just go straight to the first submarine if that was apparently an option all along? That being said, for the most part, it actually doesn't really matter. Between all the things that are happening and all the things you have to look for, you won't really have a lot of time to think about stuff like that. Especially in higher difficulties, you will absolutely have your hands full. I know it sounds like I've been saying a lot of bad things at this point, I'm just a negative asshole, but I actually really like this game. It's incredibly immersive and challenging, the story is engaging, the characters are cool, the gameplay is tons of fun, the missions are unique and rewarding. It's a great game, what can I say? There's also a pretty popular multiplayer community which has been kept alive by dedicated fans after Ubisoft turned off the servers in 2015. I'm not really a multiplayer person, but it seems like a lot of fun. If you want to check out the game, you can get the complete version, which includes the Soviet Assault expansion on GOG for $9.99. If you're at all interested in tactic games and Modern Warfare, I can really recommend it. Thanks for watching.
Too late, Parker!